Welcome to another edition of Magic Gaming Esports Academy webinar series presented by Florida Blue. I'm Kendra Douglas. And today we have a pretty special guest on the show. We're talking to Matt Potthoff, Director of Gaming and Esports at Pivot Academy. Matt, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, first off, the title that you have, did you ever vision that this could be your career?
I've been at the forefront of gaming for a very long time, over 15 years, and I don't think a lot of us expected these titles to pop up where you could even have esports or gaming in your title. I tell people often that I just feel grateful to even have the word esports in my title. Our industry is very special, and it's a privilege to just be a part of it and impact it in a variety of ways.
I love hearing that. And I want to start from the beginning of your career. Just how did you kind of get into this world and of gaming and esports?
Sure. So, my parents got divorced when I was younger. My dad ended up moving 30 minutes away or so. And the only way I could really connect with my friends online was by playing video games. At that time, it was just hard for them to get their cars and drive over to my dad's house. So we just started playing online video games. And I just ended up getting really good at it, probably because I spent a lot of time doing it. But I just love the joy of competition and gaming, and the online experience was still so new and evolving. This was when Halo 2 and Call of Duty 4 were out. When I was in middle school and high school, just really popular games at the time. And I ended up competing in local tournaments in St. Louis. And again, I just started to accumulate enough cash to keep my parents off of my back from getting a minimum wage job. And I was able to afford a little bit to pay my bills and pay for my lunch at school. And my parents were pretty amazed that I was even bringing home any income from competing in these like side little tournaments in the St. Louis area. I then went on to actually go down to Florida, where you guys are at, since I'm in St. Louis right now, and went to Full Sail University. Graduated in 2013 with a bachelor's in entertainment business. And I went to Full Sail because I really wanted to get my education out of the way. They had an accelerated program where you get your bachelor's in 21 months instead of 4 years. And I did that because I wanted to allocate a year and a half to trying to go pro in Call of Duty. And I ended up accomplishing that after a year. I signed my first pro contract, played with 16 different teams on the Call of Duty circuit. And yeah, it's been a very wild and fun ride in the space.
Let's get into your time, being a pro with Call of Duty. When was the moment where you realized this vision could happen? And what was it like, being in that field?
Sure. I wish I would have taken Call of Duty more seriously when I was still in high school. I've always had like a very magnetized attitude where I get addicted to things quickly, and then I'll like turn something off and turn it back on. But when I was at Full Sail, there was a $25,000 free for all tournament, and it was an online event. I ended up competing in it, winning it, and I handed my dad a check for $14,000 after taxes.
Wow.
That was like my pinch me moment of finally getting my name out, having everyone at my school like, wow, Matt just won $25,000 playing a video game. And being able to give that amount of money back to my dad while I was in college was really important to me because he supported me for a very long time. He supported me financially, and I was in a very beneficial situation that he was able to support me throughout school. So I wanted to pay him back and show him like, hey, like I know I was making a couple $100 every now and then back in the day, but here's a $14,000 check.
Yeah.
And then my second pitch me moment was signing my first pro contract with Curse Gaming, which is now known as Team Liquid. They're one of the most prominent esport organizations in North America. I have their jersey right up here, and they moved us all down to Marietta, Georgia. and I lived there for a year with my teammates. It was not a frat house for gamers, but we all lived with each other, and it was a great time to not only bond with my teammates, but we traveled the world. We competed for a lot of money. I learned a lot just being with my teammates in person, and we went to movies with one another. We again traveled the world. We practiced. We got into arguments on how we should play the game. So it was a great 1 year learning experience before that team fell apart. But those are my two like pinch me moments before I had a longer career in the space.
For those who are going to be watching this and they're saying to themselves, all right, I want to be a pro gamer, I want to be in this field, what are some of the positives that you can take away, but also maybe, I wouldn't say the negatives, but things you learned from and during that time?
Yeah, positives and negatives. I'll start with positives first. It's I went to bed every night knowing that I could go pro in Call of Duty. Like I believed in myself. It's what I wanted to do, but it came with a lot of sacrifice. Um, so though achieving my goals was the positive, I would say that the traveling was a positive, the building experiences, learning from other people, dealing with different personalities, like all of the good and the bad from pro gaming set me up to where I am today. So I'm very thankful that I did do a lot of sacrifices, but we're getting to a point in the gaming world where we're finally like prioritizing organization and mental health and having actual resources behind teams. When I was a pro, from 2013 to 16, we were kind of just growing with the space, and the players had a lot of control over decisions, and we didn't really have coaches. Our managers were kind of there to support us, but they were managing a bunch of teams. Now managers in esports, you have one dedicated coach and an analyst and potentially a chef and a manager for four gamers. It just wasn't like that back in the day. So we had to figure out a lot on our own, and that put a lot of stress, pressure to perform. I skipped out on a lot of family vacations, a lot of family dinners to practice. I ended up losing some relationships with my friends because they just couldn't understand why I was so passionate about going pro in Call of Duty. And that required me to play on the weekends and treat it like a full time job. So I guess kind of summarizing it, the cons that I can think of like right now was losing a few close friends, losing out on some family time, and then the pros were it set me up for a lot of success in the future. I was able to accomplish my dreams, and you kind of just have to pick and choose sometimes like what where you want to go in life and who's kind of there to stick with you and who might alter and not understand why you're getting involved in something in the first place.
Yeah, I relate to that a lot. I was a college athlete, so I had like a lot of sacrifices as well. And
Yep.
you lose out on relationships, friendships, parties you
Yep.
might want to go to because you're like this is a job. This is ultimately a job. Yeah, you're a pro, but it is a job. So I like that you touched on that, especially for those who are going to watch this and think, "Oh, I can just do it." Yeah, you can, but there might come sacrifices if you want to continue to be elite and continue
Yep.
to grow in your sport. But you mentioned how it set you up for success now. Talk a little bit about now where you're at and the position and the role that you are in now and how maybe being a pro helped you in this role now.
Yeah, I'd say since I've been here since the beginning, I know esports has been around for quite some time. I think it started in the 1990s with like Tetris and a lot of other like old school games. And I did my own research on it, but I feel like I've been here for quite some time since it scaled. And I'd say when I was a pro, I was almost like our manager and like our team mom and dad in a way. Like I was keeping my teammates organized. I was making sure they weren't staying up too late. I was probably very annoying to deal with, but that was just the nature of my personality. I liked stepping up and being a leader. I liked being organized. I liked letting my teammates know that I had their back. And I think those qualities really transcended and stuck with me on the business side because I'm really great with dealing with people. I've dealt with so many different toxic personalities in the gaming space and um, just individuals that needed a lot of time and attention and care to get them in a position where they were their best selves.
Mm.
And I am by no means a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but I had to deal with the emotional side of sports through
Yeah.
gaming. And I think that really helped me deal with people. So before I got on the business and marketing side, I was managing and recruiting players at E United. That started in 2017, and I was in charge of the coaches. I was in charge of negotiating contracts with the agents and really putting together the right recipes for our teams to succeed. And I really thrived in that position. My organization ended up winning 2 world championships, one in Call of Duty, one in Smite. We won 5 other major championships across Overwatch, Call of Duty, Battle Right, um, Smite again, and I think Call of Duty a few other times. But we had a really fruitful career and history at E United. We won 4.4 million in prize winnings and just did a lot of really amazing things with kind of a shoestring budget is what I like to say. So we were playing Moneyball, and just like you hear in baseball, with just trying to form the best teams with the least amount of capital and always pack a punch above our weight class. So those were days I cherish a lot. This entire office I have is like E United in a way. Like you can see my jersey, you can see photos somewhat of me competing and us winning the Miami championship in 2019. So I hold those moments like very dear to me.
Mm.
And those moments have really helped me on the business side, just in terms of being reputable, being honest with people, knowing a lot of connections in the esports and gaming space, and really just trying to do good work for the industry. Because I'm just under the impression that every deal that we bring into the space, if it's valuable, it not only helps me, but it helps other people get business. So that's kind of how I have my outlook on things.
I love how you mentioned the jerseys too. I think it tells a little bit about just yourself. Which one's your favorite, or like which one has a story, to it that really means a lot?
I'll shout out 2. One's really
Okay.
bad, one's really good. I'll
All
start with
right.
the good. So E United right above me. Those
Mhm.
are our only 7 were made. Those are gold foiled championship jerseys. That's the jerseys that we wore when we won the 2019 Call of Duty World Championship. My
Mm.
team won $800,000 in a
Wow.
3-day period. Yeah, my players each walked away with over $100,000 from 3 days playing Call of Duty. So that just again just signifies like where the industry has gone, how much
Mm.
money these players are making if they perform. I did not see any of that. That all of the money that we won went to my CEO. I think I did get a nice contract extension after that, which was
Yeah.
great for me. The liquid one right here. In the gaming world we call it getting reverse swept. I'm sure it's in sports too, but we were up in a best of 7. We needed to win 4 maps. We were up 3 maps to none, and the other team came back and won 4 straight maps and
Mhm.
beat us. And that was to qualify into the pro league. So that series basically put my career in the coffin, as as we like to say sometimes. And I had to reevaluate where I was in life, where I was in my gaming career, and I ended up switching to a coaching role 6 to 8 months after that series happened. So I keep those jerseys there just as like a reminder of some of them are bad, some of them are good, but those are all details along the way in your story in life. So,
I was just about to say it tells your story and tells
yep.
you kind of like how you got here. So when you look at the esports landscape, just how have you seen the esports landscape change since getting into the scene?
I've unfortunately there's like a lot of opportunity and then there isn't at the same time.
Mm.
And I'm still like struggling to understand like what's happening in a way. The pro side, there's a lot of exclusiveness. We've seen a lot of franchise systems happen where you pay these massive multi-million dollar investments to be a part of a league, and now those are kind of like faltering and going away or changing. I'm a really big fan of open systems where any player can show up to an event and make a name and a story of themselves, and the fighting game community does a great job of that. But particularly where I come from, I have more of like a sore heart because the Call of Duty league was formed after my team won the 2019 championship. So essentially, after we won and we were on top of the world, Activision Blizzard asked for a $25 million check to be a part of the next evolution of the Call of Duty Esports League. And we couldn't like really recognize that investment to get involved. And that's happened in a few esport leagues. And I think it's created a lot of stable opportunity in the scene. But it's also has deteriorated some of the culture and community of what made gaming special in the first place. And we also have to like recognize like content creators and influencers who play video games now. I sometimes think that the kids in the world today might be more excited about playing a video game and making content around it
Mm.
rather than going through all of those sacrifices to become a pro player, because it could be an easier path. And you see these influencers buying nice cars and they're buying houses after 2 years. It's just such a hot market at the moment where not that there's confusion in the air, but I still feel like our industry is working itself out. I think we have another 5 or 10 years before we really figure out like what the right business model is, what the right investments are. And I think the content creator and influencer world is going to be a really big part of that, because you're starting to see major influencers own teams. They're getting involved with owning their own esports organizations or collaborating with other influencers and utilizing their resources. And it's just really interesting to me where we're kind of going. And I hope that answers your question. So.
Yeah, it does, and it's interesting that you bring up the influencer part of it. And do you and you might not feel comfortable, but like, do you feel like it could be saturated almost? Like it's leading to that, and that it because you mentioned a little bit about they're gonna have to figure out the modeling and like how to continue to grow this. But do you feel like it could get saturated just with the amount of, I guess, influencers who are trying to, say like I can do this quick, like this is a quick kind of thing?
Yeah, it's kind of like a yes and no question. I feel like anything's possible with the internet nowadays. Like one video goes live and you have the chance to go viral and become a celebrity overnight. And then I know friends who have been streaming for years and they try to get creative and they're still stuck in not like a lower tier bubble, but they just haven't found like that expansive growth that they've been looking for. But they really enjoy streaming. That's their way of getting out and kind of distracting themselves, and they've built a community of a few hundred people, and sometimes that's all you need to have fun and activate and build an audience of your own. But yeah, I do think it's saturated in a bit. Like when I go on Twitch, and it's just the nature of where we live on the
Yeah.
internet now. There's just so much going on, so many different posts, and everyone is somehow like grabbing people's attention and time. So I think just due to the fact that everyone's on the internet,
Mhm.
it feels saturated, but not at the same time. So
Yeah. Yeah. This next question kind of goes into this like, since there have been a lot of changes in esports, what do you see as like the key to future growth for the sport?
I think
Or
the
key
key is the right investors getting involved. Um, I feel like a lot of people that really care about gaming are somewhat getting like pushed out just due to bad investments that were made. And I think it's really important that the people that are investing into esports and gaming really believe in like the product, the people, because at the end of the day, these multimillionaires and billionaires have a lot of influence and weight. And if they're not picking up the right talent and investing strategically in the space and they can't find a way to get their money back, then it's just a domino effect. And it really hurts our growth when the investors can't find a way to monetize the industry and or they're investing so much and got sold that they were supposed to 4 or 5 times, the investment that they put in. So I think that's one part of it. And then the other piece is just esports itself. There's, probably 10 to 15 popular esport titles. They're all owned by different publishers. They have different agendas. Again, some of them are a franchise league, like I mentioned before. Some of them
Mhm.
are open. Some esport organizations get involved in everything. Some just get involved with one and build a brand around it. And that's why I still say that I still feel like we're kind of in the wild, wild west. Brands are kind of figuring out what they want to do. And the most powerful esport organizations, I'd say, have used esports as a marketing vehicle and tool to help promote other peripheral products or investments that they've made. I think 100 Thieves has done a phenomenal job. Like they're more of a merchandise and lifestyle company, and they have an energy drink line, and they have their own keyboard company, and they use their influencers and their teams to promote these products authentically, and that's created a really well-rounded machine, in my opinion, where they can invest in other areas that are complementary to esports and gaming, but still stay true to what makes esports and gaming special in the first place. So I think
Mhm.
diversification and the right investors are my like two keys that I can think of off the top of my head.
Keeping up with you making decisions, the NBA 2K League, they're looking to reshape their format. So,
Yep.
if you were a decision maker, what would you do to help grow and shape the league?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the last article that I saw is that they were changing it to be more of a celebrity model
Yeah.
where it would kind of blend pro players and celebrities. I think that's the last article that I saw. I think it's really interesting. We're seeing the NFL do these like collaborations with influencers. Well, they play games against each other or with one another, and it seems to be doing well. Hockey's now doing that, and it seems like the NBA is picking it up. Excuse me.
Mhm.
Um, I wish I had the answers for the NBA 2K League. I I don't know if it comes down to the NBA teams themselves, like finding more ways to integrate it into their programming or
Mhm.
highlight the players more than just like a social media post. When I heard about the NBA 2K League, like I heard rumors that they were going to try to put holograms on the court, and in between like halftime shows, the actual broadcast of matches might be played on the huge mega screen, and the players would be like welcomed during just ways to give them more visibility. I think some
Yeah.
teams did a really good job of it, and maybe other NBA teams just kind of had it as like a potential just check mark on their list. But I really think all the NBA teams probably would have to unite, come together on expectations on how far they can really push that league and what makes sense where it doesn't interfere with their main product, because you obviously don't want to take away from the real life basketball and why people are showing up in the first place to watch a real game if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um I would just align expectations and figure out ways to grow the game organically in a way that doesn't intrude with the actual NBA, but finds like a nice complementary piece is probably the angle I would start with. So
I would like to say Magic Gaming did something along those lines this
I
past
know
season.
I've heard great
Hey,
things. I've heard great things about you guys.
they're onto something. Um, what do you see as some of the common misconceptions of esports, though?
I'd say common. misconceptions is the fact that like gamers are lazy and might just be like your average sit in your basement dweller playing video games for 14 hours a day. I think if you take like a look at the pros at the top level, they are starting to take their health seriously. They're getting better diets. They're treating this like a real sport. I have magically turned into a salesman and a marketing person. like
Yeah.
I feel like there's more to gamers than just us sitting behind the screens. Like we're very passionate. Some of us are introverted, but we have a way of displaying ourselves on a camera and really interacting with communities and figuring out ways to create Discord communities while running a Twitch chat and still playing a game at the same time. Like it's really incredible to see not just what streamers have accomplished in terms of like multitasking and keeping up with so many different social outlets, but just the tenacity and the stories of some of these players and really like what they've sacrificed to get to these really high levels. I think a lot of
Mhm.
esport organizations have done a really good job of kind of exhausting and exploiting those personalities of how these gamers got to where they are, and others again just haven't really done a good job on the backstory of these players, and they're just showing like highlight clips and stuff like that. I think everyone's story should be shared, and it's just really cool to see again so many different gamers of so many different backgrounds doing really cool things across the Call of Duty space, the Halo space, League of Legends, Street Fighter community, etc. There's just so much out there, which is what excites me about the space.
You kind of touched on a little bit about how you became a pro, but for like the younger viewers out there, how would you go about becoming a professional in the space, especially during this time?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. I kind of compare it to myself in a way, just because I know my path ended up working out for me, and just
Yeah.
really just getting your name out there by playing in tournaments, taking having your parents like sometimes parents don't support you, which is a whole other subject, and I think we're starting to find more parents supporting their kids playing games because they've seen the growth, which is just incredible. I just needed to say that.
Mm,
um but I would just simply state like being reputable, not talking too much trash, building relationships with people, and not getting like salty about like missed opportunities. Um, and I worked my way up by just networking with middle of the pack players. I would join their teams when I could. I was outperforming them, and I slowly just worked my way up the ladder. Again, it comes down to performing at the end of the day. Like as much as I would like to say like every gamer is a really nice person, there there are
yeah.
competitors who have toxic attitudes, but they're so good at the game that people will deal with it and play with them because they know on championship Sunday this guy is going to perform and at least do his job in order for us to win or compete at a very high level. And you see that in the NBA, you see that in the NFL. There's always a couple of those players that you just deal with because they have what it takes to compete at that high level. So performing is just like the number one. Like you just have to have that in order to make your way up. And then everything else is secondary, from networking, your attitude, personality, communication skills, being a leader. It all starts to add up.
Mhm. For those, there are a lot of streamers out there, and they are extremely successful, and some just not so much. You kind of talked a little bit about how you have friends who they're just happy with where they're at.
Yep.
So what would you also say might be the keys for those who want to become a top streamer right now?
I think building a community, figuring out ways to collaborate with other streamers that are bigger than you, and really just staying authentic and true to yourself is kind of the best formula. I've seen a lot of content creators work their way up by just playing with people a little bit bigger than them and they start to steal a little bit of their audience, and then they go on and play with another person that's, again, not like at the highest level, but just a little bit bigger with them, and they start to work their way up. And it's really impressive. Like that, it's a trait in itself to be able to get someone to play with you and kind of be like a chameleon in a way where you're collaborating, but you're
Sure.
almost like you're also using each other at the same time
Yeah.
to leverage your community. So there's a lot of mutual like business trade-offs that I see when I see streamers interacting with each other, but I know people won't be thinking about it the way that I am.
Mhm.
Um, and I think just being active on every social platform. There's a few streamers that I work with who I love and I'm doing great deals with them, but they just like to prioritize YouTube or they just like to prioritize Instagram. And that's completely cool with me. They made it. That's what they do. But I think in today's age, you have to cross promote to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, YouTube. Like you have to just take advantage of all the opportunities out there and
Yeah.
just get to a point where you hope one of them blows up and you can use that platform to cross promote your others and just keep scaling and building as you can.
Now, I wanna ask you a question about yourself real quick. Your resume speaks for yourself. I mean, we talked about it, winning as a championship player, a coach, a GM in esports. So, which one was the hardest and why? Means you have to think for this one.
I'd say um I'd say the world championship as a general manager, um
Mm,
not because of its significance, but just because of the we had to make a lot of tough roster decisions to put together the right team. I had to replace my coach. I had to pick between two veteran players on who I thought was going to be most beneficial to keep and who would complement our team the well. So that one just came with more, not sacrifice, but just more cuts. And it was more vicious to get to that championship title
mm,
compared to my free for all win when I was just kind of, like excited, nerdy, ready to get
yeah,
into esports
it's
and
not
gaming. I
easy.
won. The
Yeah.
coach was great. It was one of my first events. It was like my second or third event coaching. I just made a really good roster move, got the right team together, and they went on to go win. So definitely the world championship win had like the most like weight behind it in terms of the right pieces that needed to be put together in order for it to win. And again, it's it sucks. I You're on that stage for like 4 minutes and then it's like over. So everyone's like you're always fighting to get back on that stage and celebrate just for those like 5 minutes, but it's
Yeah.
years of work that goes into just standing up there with the fireworks and holding this big trophy and it's definitely worth it. Again, it was one of the greatest moments of my life outside of getting married because I don't want my wife to get mad at me.
Let's start with that one. Start with that. And then GM.
Yes.
I love that. Now, was she a part? I don't want to bring her in too much.
Yeah.
Did she understand the gaming world and like a little bit about esports when you were
No,
getting
she
into it?
didn't. Nope. That's
No.
one of the reasons I started dating her.
This person knows nothing about it. I don't have. You can have a
Yeah.
whole conversation
I
about like Love Island or something when you get
I
home and not worry about
yeah,
it.
I can say my, I guess, girlfriend at the time Brittany
Yeah.
was very supportive of me, like through everything from playing to competing to being a general manager and a coach. I mean, I was traveling a lot, so it was nice to have someone very loyal and someone that understood all the traveling and again, kind of the sacrifices that we talked about before. So
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So for those who are going to be watching this, especially like younger students and younger viewers, what would you recommend or what advice would you give them if they want to get into the esports world, whether it be professionally or, at a different in the different areas and the venues that, that it can offer?
yeah, if I had to look back 15 years ago and kind of put myself in middle and high school, I would just reinforce that if you believe in yourself that you can do something, you
Mhm.
can do it. You just got to put in the work and stay consistent and not let other people like really get in your way. Like if you truly believe that you have what it takes and you're not being like delusional in a way, like just go
Yeah.
for it and kind of block out the noise. I would also, I guess this is me like being a dad now. I just became a dad a year ago.
Oh,
Um, Thank
congrats.
you. I put so much time and energy into video games that I sometimes feel like I'm lacking other skills when it comes to just doing like handiwork around the
Mhm,
house and cooking meals and not saying I'm a bad cook, but I would just take the time to appreciate the moment that you're in where
mm,
you have this window of space from when you get to school and when you leave to actually just kind of slow down and absorb different knowledge and try to kind of balance and organize yourself where you're prioritizing gaming or basketball or whatever is really important to you, but you're still finding some other time to read a book or watch a YouTube video on something completely else. Like find things that are complementary to your main mission and figure out ways where you can find like other hobbies or skill sets that's just a little bit different but similar enough where those traits and secondary habits that you pick up would
mhm.
benefit like your main drive is what I would say.
I like that. So we kind of talked with you a little bit earlier, but mental health is a big part of why we do this as well. So can you give us examples of how you've had to prioritize your mental health from from when you were a pro to even now or just in any
Yeah.
space?
Yeah, and I have no problem, getting personal on this because I think it's important that I feel like boys and men we sometimes have a hard time speaking about mental health, and we sometimes just keep everything indoors and shut off. And fortunately, when I was at E United, we were partnered with a mental health partner that really gave us like the resources and helped us build storylines around why speaking about your mental health is really important. So I was able to share my story. For me, I dealt with severe burnout when I
Mm,
was a pro. Again, I put a lot of eggs into going pro. It worked out, but I also had like that extreme falling off when my team got reverse swept and I didn't know what I was wanting to do in life anymore. I didn't know what gaming was really where it was taking me and where I was supposed to go. And I developed I believe it's generalized anxiety disorder where I was just getting anxious about everything. I was getting anxious about my heartbeat, breathing, decisions that I was making in my life. And I had to start prioritizing my health, just eating better, talking to my family more, just being a little bit more open about like where I was at in life, and ended up meeting a lot of resourceful people that, including my wife, who just kind of kept me stabilized and got me back on track. Um, so yeah, I feel so much better now compared to when I did back then, and I still remember like dealing with those um, what's the word? Just dealing with the result of being anxious. Like I was sometimes having like night tremors at night and just like shaking, and
mm,
I would have panic attacks. Panic attacks are by far the worst thing. I do not wish it upon like my enemy. It's just a terrible
mhm,
thing to have to go through a panic attack when you're really anxious. Um, so yeah, right now I feel great. I fortunately have made a great transition and got out of that. So I think what I can say from all of this is that if you are anxious or dealing with different mental health issues, it's one, just important to talk about it.
mhm,
And two, just know that there is like light at the end of the tunnel. When I was dealing with my anxious episode, I literally thought it was never going to end. I'm like, I'm going to be like this forever. And then it becomes like a downward spiral where you feel like there's like no hope or nothing's going to get better, but it eventually does get better. It takes a while and might take some new habits and meeting new people, but you just have to stay with it and, stay consistent and keep doing your thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that because I do believe that sometimes it can be hard to talk about these things, but it happens to everybody in every sport as well. And so
Yep.
we really want to make sure that those who are watching this know that it's definitely an okay space to feel how you're feeling and prioritize your mental health. So thank you for sharing that. Now I want to ask you, Matt, just thank you again for taking the time to talk to us. Can you please share all your social media handles
Yeah.
or best way that people who are watching this can get in touch with you?
Yeah, 100%. Potthoff, Potthoff is my Twitter handle. That's Twitter X. I keep doing that.
Oh, yeah, I know. I
And
do the same.
and if I'm allowed to, I actually did just launch a book.
Oh my
It
god,
is
tell
a guided journal for improving at competitive video games, and it's actually built for schools and younger kids, and even all the way at the professional level to reinforce healthy habits and just think about the right things on a weekly basis. This has been like 2 years in the making. It just launched 2 months ago. Doing a little bit more like research on this webinar series and the group that you guys are speaking with. It was really exciting for me because I thought this could be very applicable to a younger person who wants to go through like an 8-week program and potentially learn some new skills and reinforce healthy habits in their gaming journey. So, yeah.
Yeah, how can we get your book? And can you hold it up one more time?
Yeah,
Just like
100%. Yeah, it's available on Amazon if you just type Hard Carry Gaming Journal. That's when it pops up. I don't think we've sold enough books yet for it to like fully pop up, but we just passed the 300 mark, which is really
hey,
exciting for me.
nice.
Again, I have no idea where it's going to go. I just felt passionate about putting everything that I know about esports and gaming on the competitive and management side into a quick little tidbit journal. So I'm really excited for it. We've heard positive things from schools that have bought it and esport directors that are using it for their students. It's becoming pretty popular with like summer camps or really just teachers or directors of programs that just got into esports and don't really know how to communicate with their students on building a plan and organizing it. So that's been the biggest value so far. And again, I'm just really excited to see where it goes outside of what I'm doing at Pivot. So
That's awesome. That's really cool that you're doing that and you can put all your energy into that. So yeah, thank you for sharing. And this has been another edition of Magic Gaming Esports Academy webinar series presented by Florida Blue. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to follow Magic Gaming at Magic Gaming on Twitter or X and on Instagram. And thank you again. We'll see you next time. And thank you, Matt, for joining us.
thank you for having me.